All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. We'll get through to your feedback in just a bit. But Romatangi, you're finishing for us this conversation on Matiang'i under siege now, before we get into the political conversation. And of course, Atandi is saying that he's been lectured by Aluale, so we'll give him a right of response in a bit.
Yes, he needs to.
Let's start with Romatangi first.
Yeah, you know, Trevor, I think I would agree largely with... I've gone through the story, but I also heard you earlier say that your cameras were there. It would have been good to see precisely what was transpiring, but from reading the story, there doesn't seem to be consistency about a raid in his home, because even the Daily itself, the Nation, speaks of he was a man under siege last night amid reports that police had. I mean, there's absolutely no confirmation anywhere. And the paper also further goes on to say that the head of EACC indeed replied to the inquiry and confirmed that his people are not there. And everything here seems to be very speculative, that, that there's anything that was going on. But tied that to the discussion that went on during when this team went for former CS Magoha's to his home. I think a few things were said there, but you get the sense of a team trying to agitate, that they're trying to chokoza, you know, the other side. There'll be some reaction and create that kind of scene whereby public attention will be drawn as though there is an intent to harass. That's the impression. But my mind is clear about the agenda of this government and the intention, which I have clearly in many occasions heard the president speak about, and that we as a party have decided should be the way forward. And that is to focus on the important thing. And the important thing is our people. It's the country running and getting our things done. And I can't move away from that, because I know that's what we intend to do. And so all these other sideshows, they intended to deflect the people's attention on the direction and the steps that the government is taking to correct the things that have been done wrongly. And I think part of what I would want to urge the immediate former government players who are there is to step aside for a while. You know, exit the scene and leave the field open. Let work get done now. You can't be defeated in an election and then immediately you want to come and muddy the water, start throwing all manner of words and stones and everything. Let them respect the will of the Kenyan people. The people spoke loudly as to how they want to be led. And that judgment meant this, that Kenyans were not happy with the way government ran their affairs for the last 10 years. And so that's why the verdict was made by Kenyans in the ballot the way they did. And so the direction that they sought is in this government with the promises that this government made. Okay. So please, for those that were defeated in the elections, the players that were there, whether you are a CS, whether you are a PS in the former regime, just stay out of the scene. Okay. You had your time. All right. They should give this government the time to do what they're supposed to do.
All right, Atandi. Thank you. Your response to Halwale. Then we shift gears and talk about Raila is calling for Azimio crisis talks, Ruto power onslaught on Uhuru and Raila base as well.
Trevor, I want to address this issue in two areas. One, I want to talk about legitimacy or illegitimacy of a regime, and especially the regime that we have in town right now. Trevor, legitimacy or illegitimacy of regimes is caused by how the regimes are founded. Or a legitimate regime can begin to be illegitimate based on the actions they undertake immediately they take over power. And one thing I want to remind my colleagues is that this election was contested. And my sister has explained that the number of people who did not turn up to vote actually outweigh the number of votes that were cast in favor of the president. So what I'm trying to say, Trevor, is that this regime, even if it was legitimate by the time it was taking over power, right now it has become illegitimate. It has lost legitimacy. And that's the point.
Basis?
That's the point that I want to say.
On what basis?
First of all, on the fact that, one, the arguments that were put forward by this regime as they were looking for votes now is complete opposite of what they were promising. And Trevor, this has caused regimes to exit. If you look at cases of the Arab Spring and even the United Kingdom, the regimes have exited because they are not able to implement what they promised. They have gone complete opposite. Like in this case, if you look at things that are the government is doing in a short time that they'll be in office, completely opposite. I think hustlers are wondering whether this is the hustler regime they were singing about. So on that account only, even if I don't go back to the issues of elections, Kenyans feel this regime is illegitimate because it is not doing what they had promised. And this is a very good reason for a regime to exit. Yeah? That is one. Two, I also want to look at whether our actions in calling for consultations are legal or illegal, because Dr. Boni Alwele is suggesting that Baba is engaged in illegal activities, which I want to dispute and tell him that we have never broken the law. And this, the reason why the police is not coming for us is because there is nowhere where they can say our meetings are going contrary to the constitution or to the law. And for your information, Boni, there is no single individual in this country who understands the law than any other Kenyan. Raila understands the law better than any other Kenyans because this is the law that...
Really?
The constitution you have to do. Raila is a single individual that has participated in the creation of this constitution. So you cannot accuse him of trying even to, betray the constitution or to act in illegalities. So Raila does not act in illegality. In fact, if Raila was engaged in anything that is unconstitutional, I'm sure Boni Alwele and the rest would have jumped on the street and asked that he should be arrested. So we are acting within the law, and what we are doing is provided for in the constitution. So we are not doing anything illegal, Boni Alwele, and we want to urge you to respect our thinking, because as opposition, we have brains, and we don't want the government to come and tell us, this is how you should lecture us, this is how you should oversight us. Once you've told us to oversight you, allow us to oversight you. And thirdly, it is true, I've agreed with you that we seem to be losing on the front, the parliamentary front, because as you're aware, most MPs appear to be running to government, thinking that the government has goodies to give them. And because of that, we may be weak in parliament. But we are not weak because we have so many millions of Kenyans who are behind us. Some of the people who voted for you today have jumped ship and they are with us because you've stopped caring about them, you've stopped caring about their promises. So we are a very strong opposition, and whatever we are going to do in terms of engaging people across the country, you will see that we have the masses, and the masses are going to push you to do what is good for them.
But is that true, Atandi, considering 9 of your members of parliament were in State House, and you see now 30 Jubilee members who are also in State House who have pledged allegiance to the Kwanza team? How are you strong after all that?
No, I've just explained that we could be weak inside parliament. But an MP does not, most of the MPs who are talking to the president, they have not consulted their voters. And their voters have not agreed with them to go and work with the government. So what we know is that they have left their voters behind with us, but they have simply moved as individuals to work with government. And that is the most important point I'm trying to say.
But the argument is it's based on development agenda, not politics.
What development? There's no development which you look at the supplementary budget yesterday. I'm sure you've gone through it. Did you see anything that looks like development in that budget? In any case, cut down development budget from what we passed in during the last budget cycle. It has been cut, and instead the government has increased expenditure on recurring activities. So what development are you looking about when the same government is cutting on development budget? What development budget are you going to get? Yeah, so there's no development. This is politics.
Okay. Elachi, what do you make of this move by politicians heading to State House? Because first there was the team from Azimio, then actually all of them are from Azimio. There's Jubilee and ODM that went to State House. The argument of the legislators is that they went there based on development agenda. Now we see Raila is calling for Azimio crisis talks, and there's a headline on the Standard that Ruto power onslaught on Uhuru and Raila base.
Well, I don't want to read the way the media has put it, onslaught, no. I want to, this one I'm speaking as Beatrice Elachi, not party, not anything. I want us to go back to our history of how the government came in 2013. The government comes in 2013, Uhuru and Ruto wins. They take over government, and therefore many of the members who are right now still in government and who were part of Jubilee were still the same government. And so in having that disquiet or not disquiet, it was not disquiet, I would say very loud disagreements in terms of that time, the regime, it does not mean that the members of Jubilee, and I want to be very honest so that people, we get out of it and know they have to move on, is that they worked knowing very well they were working and respecting the president, just the way many of us did. By the way, many people never know that as I went to my election, I know we were never in good terms with my former president. But I made it sure as professional that nobody will ever get to know. He never supported me. And I respected that because also I had my stand. And so in this politics, it depends. I am sorry, I come from a very different place where I always say, if I am indeed a child of God, I will stand in the end because I have my God. And when this is wrong to a leader, it does not matter. I'll tell you, it is wrong. And so for the Jubilee members, they have to go because they have to work. They are in the region where the government won more. Number two, the party leader is not there. We keep on saying this Azimio thing, and I realized when I look at the ruling of my speaker in Parliament, and somebody should read that ruling when he was now talking about the different parties and how they are and the agreements we had. I mean, we messed our own agreement. So you can't tie them. That's the biggest challenge, and we are refusing to face it, that the moment you bring in a document that was to bind these parties, and it did not bind us. And Speaker Wetangula, that was the gap. And he's a lawyer. He used to bring out on how parties can be and how we ended up minority majority.
So anyone can shift anywhere?
No, it's not shifting. The parties, not anyone. I'm talking about parties, Trevor. Parties within that ruling, they made mistakes themselves on signing their own document. Their own document that can bind so that you hold people accountable. And we kept on saying this will, after this ruling, it is going to be messy, which it is. And so for now, in terms of the party of Jubilee, the party leader should call first the members, because our party leader is Raila Odinga. Wiper has their party leader. Azimio should accept that the biggest weakness they ever did, which as women we cried every day and reminded them, that if you want to be a good coalition, you must, after the nomination, close this gap called parties and go with one ticket called Azimio. They disagreed. And so they should not come right now to start again fighting another thing, forgetting just previously. We cried. I remember me and Shepesh in Kajiado, we told them, this thing will haunt you. So let them now realize why we wanted that you must have Azimio. But the moment you wanted to remain with your parties, if the party has decided and has moved, and in Parliament already we have a very serious ruling there that just does not make sense. I would say this. Even the ones who were responsible,
Yeah.
they have let us down. That
Right.
is why we are in this quagmire.
Okay.
And so for Jubilee, I think somebody like Sarah Correra must work with government. She's from a prone area in Laikipia, dealing with bandits. The only place she can go and ensure she gets what she needs is in my CS, Kindiki's place.
Okay.
But she cannot now, and so we have to ask ourselves, if you want to work with government, I doubt whether they have gone also, because as a politician, if anything is not good for my people in Dagoretti North, regardless of where I will stand for my people. So I am hoping also as they go, they are not just going because of the sake of going. Some of them don't understanding that you are also elected in a scenario where people were very strongly, they know why they elected you. And so have a stand. I will have a stand where I feel as ODM, this we are not doing right. I will stand and say my words and say this one, as me,
Yeah.
I feel this is not right.
Okay.
But where I feel the government is doing wrong, I will stand firm and say, government, you are not doing right.
All right.
Yes.
I see Matangi smiling on this because I don't know what your thoughts are on shifting.
No, I mean, it's because I was happy and it's a little bemusing at least to see that there are still a few remaining Christians on that other side.
What do you mean? I don't think that's right.
No, I mean, no, because
Christianity has nothing. All of us are Christians.
Yeah.
And
because at least,
all of us are Christians.
you know,
Really?
Elachi has been a sober-headed lady for a long time. And at least there are principles she doesn't leave behind. But at least, you know, it's good to have a few people who tell the truth, even when
yes,
on the other
which
side.
I know Atandi always tells me, this truth of yours will kill me. But I have always said, let it kill me, but be honest
but be
sometimes.
honest.
You know, because
I don't know how to pretend on some of this madness.
even in the Holy Book, it says you reap what you sow. You know, and we spoke here a long time ago. During the formation of these coalitions, and the approach then that Azimio had of wanting to have their cake and eat it at the same time, and we don't need to go back to that history, but for the purpose of the current discussion, it's important. Remember, we in UDA were single-minded. We wanted a party that unifies everyone. And everybody agrees, even when you come with your party, that we run on the same platform. We are no longer about distinct individual parties and you run your own small arrangements. We come in and coalesce around one vision and one mission to change the country, implement the bottom-up approach. But then on this other side, and I think even that is why, Trevor, you've not brought up that debate. But I think one of the debate that would be there right now is there still Azimio? Does Azimio still exist? And my instinct tells me that it doesn't. If you read the signs of the times and some of these small things you are seeing happening, I think these guys have already realized that it has to be now everyone on their own, as they intended earlier. When they formed the coalition, remember, every party came with its own plan, its own manifesto, its own distinct rules. They put it on the table and they told everyone, you can still be here, but still be yourself. You know, one way or the other, some kind of cocktail that didn't seem to work. And that is why, even before we went to the election, remember, they started bolting out. There was disquiet and a lot of fighting. Even most of them left that coalition before that. And I think that's even why, in my reading of the signs of how their leaders are acting now, you can see, I think they've started forming new alliances. I saw Mbadi in the press yesterday, and I think even today, saying that he's ready to quit as leader of the chairman of ODM. And some of the few things that the ODM leader has been doing tells you that probably he's on his way to some place, maybe, you know, to a party somewhere. And I saw in the press, I think that was yesterday, he had visited a place and there were some young men there in military uniform. You know, those quasi uniform that looks like military and berets, and they were calling themselves some movement for something, you know, democratic something, defense. That tells you, you know, those are signs that may be indicators of a journey to a new destination. Because Azimio as it was is very unlikely to succeed. But the problem, maybe to borrow the words of the Speaker of the National Assembly now, this divorce is too noisy and too messy, you know, as it is. Yeah. Probably what they would do is break up their parties without letting this debris and the spillovers mess the system of government that is there in place, and those that won and the will of the Kenyan people, like I've said 3 times this morning, that what our people want now is to be let to live and get what it is that they wanted when they went to the ballot. That's a good government that is taking care of their current and immediate needs to be able to put food on their table. So I think in as far as what my good friend and longtime colleague Elachi here has said, those on her side, and Elachi, even yourself, when you're looking at the interest of the people of Dagoretti North, you are largely like Correa. When you are called, come and speak about the issues of your people and don't be shy. You know,
I can't because State House is in my constituency. So I'm the member of parliament of everyone after being elected.
Let me close by saying this.
It's very difficult.
Let me close by saying this. You know, we have a very wrong concept of what it means to be in the opposition. Being in the opposition does not mean that your work is to abuse people in government. It does not mean that when you're in the opposition, your work is to go and tear down the work that the government of the day is doing. It does not mean that you go and create roadblocks ahead of every development agenda that the government of the day is putting. You're supposed to, if I would, you know, say to my friends, and I know they know this, probably it's only hypocrisy, you're just supposed to shine the limelight on the actions of government of that day to ensure that they act as they should within the law. And definitely people get the gains, you know, and criticize constructively. That's the work of the opposition. But you know, our opposition, and we have that history for the last 50 years, and it has been successive, is when you've lost an election, immediately go to the drawing board and start creating and drafting a new plan, how you're going to sabotage, how you're going to stop everything and make life as messy as possible. And unfortunately, it is always self-seeking. It's always about myself. It's about what people want to get individually, not for the people.
All right. Dr. Luale, when you see the move by the president, is this about galvanizing forces towards the Kenya Kwanza agenda, or is this just politicians being opportunistic?
I have not had a discussion with the president since the beginning of the collapse of Azimio. But I take note, seriously, that 9 members of parliament, some of them very senior, from the ODM, making a decision that is contrary to the position of their party leader, and 30 members of the Jubilee doing the same, it is not something that you can wish away. It is something which is actually, if it was Mudavadi talking, a mini earthquake. Having said that, I want to give it to Azimio. Azimio must now realize that they are going through the law of unintended consequences. When at the beginning they decided to rely on ethnic mobilization to create the coalition, little did they know that it would haunt them these few months after the election. What do I mean? All that Raila needed to gobble that coalition called Azimio was to say, bring Kalonzo here to bring ethnic votes from the Kamba community, work with Uhuru there, hopefully bring ethnic votes from Mount Kenya, and I, Raila, I'll bring from Luo Nyanza and stuff like that, including the Joho and so on. Plus, Atuoli and Oparanya hoping to bring ethnic votes from my community. It looked like it was going to work, but we moved away from it completely and decided to do mobilization around economic empowerment. The reason why it was very easy for the president to go to Nyanza, it is because long before we won the election, we had already formed the Lake Region Economic Caucus, which identified issues that we would speak to and subsequently act on if we won power. So what does the president do? He goes to Nyanza, and I'm shocked that Honorable Tandi is here and is saying that the president did nothing there. For your information, my brother, when he was there, he did one of the biggest things that that region needs, i.e., he launched the Blue Economy Research Hub at Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University of Science and Technology. This together with the Kabonyo, and I hope, Mheshimiwa, you know these things, this together with the Kabonyo Fisheries and Aquaculture Center of Excellence now taps into the blue economy of the Lake region. These colleagues of mine, they have all gone to other countries that have taken advantage of the blue economy. It's amazing that the potential of the Lake region, the blue economy, has never been exploited for all these years. And now the president has unlocked it. These 9 members of parliament are saying, enough is enough. Let us wait to be mobilized ethnically in 2027, but before then, let our people benefit from the blue economy. And one of the beneficiaries will be Atandi. Atandi, you know, members of parliament, if you would invest, for example, in water transport, which is part of the blue economy, water transport, water sports, you would look at the lake beyond just the fish. We need to exploit this potential instead of making the Luo community look like they were born to serve an individual, or an individual family, so that that family can speak and perpetuate opposition politics forever. How come, Atandi, when you are looking for votes, you never tell the people that we have come here for you to vote for us to become a strong opposition? You always go there telling them, we have come here, you vote for us, we want to form government. So having been defeated, it's fair that you do what those 9 members of parliament are doing. And I will tell you, the members of parliament, I'm going to meet them next week when we reopen. I'm going to congratulate them because they have run ahead of Tinga. Tinga is doing everything possible through those rallies, trying to rubber rules so that he can shake people into some form of handshake or settlement. So the members of parliament have done a handshake before Raila did his handshake. If it was Raila doing the handshake that we saw in the State House the day before yesterday, he would be expecting that Atandi and all members of parliament to follow him. Raila is now on his own.
Okay. Atandi, yes, you're right.
Trevor, just a few comments.
Yes.
It is true, Jubilee Party has not exited Azimio. Because if they did, then there would be a delegate conference, for instance, or a NEC meeting that resolves, as other parties have done, to exit Azimio. So what we are seeing is basically a few MPs, you know. Can I say they're being bought, or I would be mean if I say they're being bought? I don't know.
They say they were there on the
what we are seeing
agenda.
Is that
though the Jubilee MPs pledged that.
These are MPs. I'm trying to respond to Mama Tangi, who says that that Azimio has collapsed. Azimio would collapse if member parties of Azimio formally exit the coalition, and that is provided for. So that has not happened. So we must treat what is happening between a few members of parliament visiting State House as individual members engaging in self-seeking, you know. Not the question of looking for development does not exist because, Trevor, as I've told you, I have a supplementary budget here, which has almost cut development budget by almost 20%. And the resources have been taken to fund the president's trips to foreign countries, you know, those things, you know, the current expenditure. So nobody should tell us about development because development is here, and members of parliament belong to departmental committees that transact business of development. So the question of development does not arise. These are self-seekers. That is one. Two, Wamatangi has never been belonged to an opposition party. I think since he joined politics, he has always been on the side of government. So I don't think he's the right person to tell us how opposition should be conducted. You know, he's trying to tell us that, you know, you need to go and talk to government. You don't need to bring the government down. You see, when you sit down, when the executive sits down to write in State House to plan their development agenda, we are not there. So at what point do you want us to begin to participate? They can bring development all parts of the country because that is their work. But we are not part of that thinking. You know, we are not part of the kitchen. We're not in that kitchen where that food is being cooked. So our work is to criticize, yes, and to say your thinking on this line is not right. And Boni Alwale, what the president launched in Kisumu in Bonda was a Blue Economy Research Hub, a project of Jaramogi Oginga Odinga University, which has been done for the last 10 years. It's complete. And for your information, the president did not commit even one bob for that project. So when you say that this is what he has done for us, it doesn't exist. In fact, we should say this is what Uhuru has done for us. I'm trying to tell you that what the president is doing with us is engaged in, public relations. Because when you come to our region and you promise us development projects, we want to see those development projects in the budget. But when you just visit and make speeches and promise, until we see that those promises, those speeches are met with tangible allocations in the budget, then we will not trust that the president means well. The president is doing politics, and we don't want to help him in doing his politics because we don't belong to his political party. We belong to our own political party, and we'll do our politics as a political party, as a political coalition, as he does his politics as a leader of Kenya Kwanza or UDA. So I think what we need to say, Trevor, is that this country belongs to all of us. And everybody needs to play their role. We'll play our role as opposition to check government within parliament or without parliament.
Okay.
And that's what we are doing. We don't want these people to be disturbed. Don't be disturbed, because I'm hearing Wamatangi say here that, you know, allow the government to implement their development projects, give the government peace. You know, that is not our business. Our business is to, in fact, win power. Yep. Even if we could remove this government tomorrow, we would be very happy, and that's our intention. So, because we want power. We want power. We are not. What do you intend to do? The fact that we did not get the instruments of power. Yeah. In August, yes, does not stop us from continuing to seek for those instruments of power.
How will you remove this government from power?
We don't want to give you our secrets. I don't want to give you our secrets, but the message we are saying is that we are here. We are here to oversight and to check the government, and possibly to remove the government from office.
And in your assessment, Atandi, does Azimio still exist, or is it?
Of course, Azimio exists. Azimio exists. Why do you say Azimio doesn't exist?
Because it's made up of parties. Parties are made up of people. If the individuals leave those parties, just having the name there doesn't constitute a coalition.
Azimio exists. The largest parliamentary party today is UDA, followed by ODM. And Jubilee is number 3. Wiper is number 4. DAP Kenya is number 5.
But do you accept...
Those are parties that form Azimio. They are
That's the thing. You just mentioned UDA, and then you mentioned segmented parties, which is what Elachi was talking about.
What I'm saying
you
is
make
that
a mistake by not having
UDA is the largest. UDA is the largest parliamentary political party, and the other parties I've mentioned to you, ODM, Wiper, Jubilee, DAP Kenya. Those are members of Azimio. They haven't exited Azimio. What we have seen is there's a few MPs self-seeking, going to State House to meet the president. But as far as we are concerned, the Azimio coalition exists, and the coalition is very strong. In fact, tomorrow after our retreat, you will see us tomorrow when we speak to Kenyans after our retreat.
But Honorable, the biggest platform, the biggest political platform is Parliament.
No.
When you leave that big political platform and head to make speeches in funerals or at a designer meeting in Kamukunji or Kibera, talking to a conglomeration of youth who purport to represent, for argument's sake, the Luo, is a lie. The children who are in Kibera, let's assume that a big fraction of them were Luo. Were they lifted from Homa Bay? Were they lifted from Siaya? So even the youth in Siaya, in Homa Bay, in Migori, in Kisumu are not with you. These things we are doing, you must stop. We want those youth to be empowered. And we have rolled out a multi-billion project called the Hustlers Empowerment Fund.
My friend Bonnie.
Yes, sir.
You know, please, as you make those comments, and I want you to continue.
Yes.
But remember one thing.
Yes, sir.
Atandi wants power. Nothing else.
So through the back door.
The back door.
If you want power, do what we did. We went to the people, as you continue misruling the country for 5 years, we went to the people, we won the election. So go and win the election instead of telling the youth, put on red berets with some military fatigue. In the process, you'll take on power. That is the joke that made us break with Raila when he was trying to swim in. We asked him, Mudama and I, and the late Makufuli, he talked to Raila in our presence and told him, do you have a military that you want to take on a government? So if you take those little children and you line them there, and the government decides, let's go and discipline, little young people will lose their lives. Are you not disturbed that I voted for Winnie Odinga, voted for Kennedy Kalonzo, and when Raila is calling out the resistance leaders to stand up, we don't see Winnie standing up as one of the leaders. We don't see Kennedy Kalonzo standing up. Instead, you want to look for children of the poor and cheat them when your children are enjoying 7-star lifestyles in Arusha. This we cannot allow.
Trevor, Bonnie.
I'll give you the... Let them finish. Let's hear Omontagi, then I'll come to Elijah.
Because Bonnie will take us to another direction.
Because, Trevor,
yes.
You know, I think it's a morning of revelation. There's one. Because the conversation has been, you know, we started in a certain direction, but at least truth is coming out. And I took specific cognizance of those words by Atandi. And Kenyans should, because Atandi now has been a member of parliament for quite a number of years. So he cannot just be speaking like that. He knows what he's saying. That is the inside information he's revealing to Kenyans. That the only thing they want is power, regardless of what happens. No. Whether people go hungry, whether they cause chaos. He says, actually, if it is possible, and I'm rephrasing him word to word, he said that under all circumstances, what they want, even if they can be able to take government tomorrow and bring it down, that's what he's saying, regardless. And that informs the country and our people. Precisely some of the actions that you are seeing here, about rallies, about demonstrations, about certain intended actions. Because what Atandi is saying as an insider is that what they're looking for is power.
Okay.
And you know, Trevor, allow me just this one, because Atandi said, I've never been in the opposition. I've been in that parliament with him, that was in the Senate. And I believe the Senate is still the upper house, is it? in that sitting.
I have no.
That's a whole new discussion.
I've been there. I've been there for a whole 10 years. I know how the opposition runs. And I know what opposition is supposed to do. And I've seen what good opposition does. You know, and let me finalize. Because I've tried to give a very, very, you know, let me call it lopsided, although we have respect for each other with the way we think. But on this one, I term you wrong because you have failed to reflect on some of the things I heard you say in this panel when I was with you here last time. You know, one of the things that, Trevor, I would say this to inform our people. One of the things that we've decided, and I believe the president has decided, is that it is not possible to continue with running a wrong plan, a wrong economic plan for this country that you can see has not worked for the last 10 years. We cannot continue to give the impression to the people, a facade, a plastic presentation that we can run this government and an economy when we are borrowing money that we don't have, to give an impression that we can continue to shout that we are doing development projects on borrowed funds when we have actually outborrowed our fundamentals. And so when you see some of these austerity measures, and I speak that because that's the same thing I'm doing in the government of Kiambu, you cannot go all over borrowing, looking for money and giving people the impression that there are things that you can do and you can spend money anyhow when you don't have that money. Okay. There are things that must be done to make sure that when you spend money that you can be able to have, that you have, and that you can sustain. Right. And so I believe when you, Atandi, when you look at that budget, you've spoken about that, you didn't see this, you saw a cut here, you see this one has been cut from there. First, good economic planning is strengthen your fundamentals. Okay. Make sure that you're spending money that you can generate and that you have yourself. Right. Then people will be happy. Okay. We'll have a good economy.
Elachi, and then I'll give Atandi right of response.
Well, I want to just go back and say what I said.
Yeah.
And it is a lesson we must learn going forward. That when you want to plan to win a government, your strategies must be very clear, and you should give in a win-win situation where you say, I am sacrificing 1, 2, 3. Now, in the article of Azimio, so that our members also don't feel what is happening, and I think that's why I said, let me just give the information. Yeah. After reading what came into Parliament, I realized we have a clause 9, that, I mean, among the clauses, I don't want to remember whether it's 9 or what, that says each party will stay in to the coalition for 6 months after the election. So you see, after 6 months after the election, parties within Azimio had now a right to do whatever they want to do. And so I will not want to wish away and say that, and that's why I'm saying, when you're doing a document, read through. In law, we say, read through every word that you put in. So you've left it hanging like that. You haven't said, you've left again the parties to decide how they can get out of your agreement, how they can decide now the dissolution has we are dissolving ourselves to come out. It is not within that agreement. You've just put, so you'll have one. Then they have a council. Okay. This council, which needed to have been the pillar of Azimio, when was the last time they met? Because these are issues you need to speak within the council to agree that we cannot move like this, and what punishment is there. Okay. You see, you have no punishment of whipping your members. You've left it so vague. Okay. And the council that was meant to be the pillar since the election and after all that has happened after the Supreme Court, afterward, you needed to have met and said, now we have lost through the Supreme Court, through the ballot. Now can we sit down and ask ourselves as a coalition, 1, what do we move with? Okay. 2, but then what I will say is that you can't now come. You want to start catching up. Yeah. You can't win when we do such things. And I'm saying this because everyone worked to see they win. Every party was working to see they win. But now, the problem I have is when you refuse to face and agree we messed this, and say it was wrong, and point and tell. But you've come, we blanket everything and we make it normal. And the same people who did a mess, when 3 months we were telling them, I will tell you here today with no fear, 3 months I met Baba's people, I told them, Baba will lose with 300,000. Because of one, you have refused to put in a structure that works properly. That has, where are your agents? Where are all this? You know, because for us, we are questioning as women, and I know nobody can talk like that, so it's Bijelati speaking, not party. I am saying, because I'm always frustrated. When I see them bashing each other, I'm asking myself, hello, a presidential election is won in a constituency, not a county, constituency, tallying center, no, at the stream where the vote starts counting. That is what we should have put in our heads to realize we needed to be very strategic in every of our polling centers, stations, that you are key in what you want to win. Right. Now, today I'll say this, which will hurt very many people. Also, when you want to win a presidential, you have to be very serious in the stronghold where the president is coming from. You cannot just assume. You have to go and mobilize people to come out and vote. So can we agree that we did wrong, and we did wrong to Baba, and accept we messed his election because of our own interests, people surrounding him, telling him today, this is right, this is wrong. When you say a right thing, they say you are now bad. You are now facing Baba. You are now, no. We have used the Prime Minister in a very bad way just to win our election. And then we will know he will come out and do all these things. But we are already comfortable in Parliament. It is a shame on us who are in Parliament.
Thank you.
Attendee.
Trevor, thank you very much. Trevor, we hold the position that Trevor, we hold the position that the presidential elections were bungled by one Chebukati. That is the position we hold as a party and as a coalition. So I don't want to say much about it because it's something we have canvassed. We have whistleblower information, which is the fresh new evidence we got from inside IBC on how this process was done. And all these gentlemen here, they are aware of that information. Chair, Trevor, I wanted to say that. And I want to disagree with Bonnie, who says that Parliament is the biggest public forum that any serious political party needs to act in. And I want to remind him that in the last Parliament, he was not in Parliament, but Bonnie continued to remain active and relevant during this period when he was not in Parliament. And in fact, when I visited Kakamega, he was a stronger force than even the elected leaders during that time. So I want to disagree with him that it is not a must that when you are strong in Parliament, you are also strong, you are a strong movement. Organic movements can be stronger than Parliament. And this is a reality, and I've used him as an example, and he knows that that is a reality. The other thing that I wanted to say, Trevor, as I conclude, is that Wamatangi, the governor here, I wanted to tell him that rationalizing the budget and creating austerity measures is something which has been said by the president several times. But we were waiting for those speeches to be made into action, into reality, through the budget which is before us. And I want to, because I've gone through the budget, what has happened in this supplementary budget is that about 150 billion has been removed from development budget, and that money has been added to the recurrent budget. Is that really what we mean by austerity measures? Because austerity measures would mean that you cut recurrent budgets. You remove resources which are spent on traveling, holidaying, conferences. Now, if you take money from development and add into such expenditures, then you are doing completely the opposite of what you are saying. And this is the point I'm trying to raise, that one, the government is not living to what they say. Right now, Trevor, I want to give an example, and I was analyzing the budget. I saw that State House budget has been doubled, from 4.4 billion to 8.8 billion. A budget like the Deputy President's budget is increased from 1.3 billion to 2.7 billion. Then we have a budget of the Office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary. In fact, when I was looking at that budget, and then recently there were debates between the Deputy President and the Prime Cabinet Secretary. The two were reportedly angling for power within the Kenya Kwanza coalition. And just looking at the way the budgets have been captured, it shows you where the power is.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to challenge my brothers here on the side of government is that you cannot take money from development and push that money into recurrent expenditures.
Yeah.
And still promise us development and say, come, let us engage, and we are going to give you development. Doesn't come from speeches.
Okay.
It comes from monies
the budget.
Yeah, marked in the budget.
Okay. Something your colleague said that I'd like you to clarify in 10 seconds because we've run out of time here. Are you looking to check government or are you looking to take power?
Trevor, political parties exist to take power. There's no political party that exists to check government only. Yeah, right now, from where we are checking government because the government is not doing things that resonate with Kenyans. When the cost of basic commodities continue to rise, when the government withdraws subsidies that are supposed to support poor Kenyans, then we have to speak about them. Whether that is opposition, that is oversight, we continue to do that. But we must tell everybody that the reason why we are in politics is because political parties are created to take power. So we cannot say that now we are not interested in power. Our work is to oversight Dr. Bonialwe. That's what we are doing.
Okay. All right, we have to leave it there, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much. We've run out of time.
Just
10 seconds only, please.
10 seconds.
I thought we had a closing remark.
In both sides,
run out of time, Omatangi.
In both sides, we should know we have Kenyans who are very silent.
Okay.
And Kenyans who worked regardless of what government was there. And I want to plead to government, let us not victimize so much the business people who I know are very hurting.
Okay.
And they feel that it is very unfortunate because they were business people working with government.
All right.
Yes, and we have very many Kenyans who are about to lose jobs because also their businesses are about to close.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much.
Can I just say, as we close, that the day when I want to run for president, I'll make Beatrice Alachi my advisor.
Okay.
That was good advice.
All right, thank you. Let's leave it there for now. We've run out of time. Asante sana for making time. Cooking Tips is coming up next.